What's happening, people? Dan Lawless here for West Ham Fan TV, and I am joined by Freddie from the Ugly Inside for an opposition preview for this massive game this weekend of West Ham versus Southampton at the London Stadium. Don't forget, check out my preview on Freddie's channel so you can see my perspective from a West Ham point of view. Now we're going to get a lot more information about what we can expect from Southampton. So thanks for coming on, Freddie.
No problem, mate. I'm really looking forward to the trip to East London. Hopefully, well, do you know what? I think we pulled the trigger in a good time, because if we'd kept Pellegrino, that stadium would be full of two sets of hostile fans.
I was so upset when you guys sacked it. I was like, all the times to sack him, it would be just before you play us, and you get that manager bounce. I mean, you've got to now see a game with Mark Hughes. Did you see a lot different under Hughes in that game?
The first 45 minutes, I mean, actually looking at it, I think they were making the same mistakes and probably bad habits that they were under Pellegrino, and probably under Puel too. I mean, they played with restrictions in that first half against Wigan, and I think it was just a case of kind of flushing it out of the system. And I think Mark Hughes really got into the lads at half time and obviously got a reaction out of them. Come out of the second half, controlled the football match. You know, people will say it's only a League One side, it's Wigan, but you know there were no easy opposition. That they're beating three Prem sides, including yourselves, to get there. So you know, it was great to see the boys actually come out and play with some freedom in the second half and actually play 4-4-2, where you know all the fans have been calling for this season.
Yeah, I mean, and when you signed Hughes, was there any sort of apprehension the fact that this guy, obviously he was in the position he was in with Stoke, and now you're signing him? Was there any fear or any worry, or did you guys go, you know what, new fresh start?
His appointment divided opinion big time. Obviously, his record when he left Stoke wasn't that great. You know, probably the worst defensive record at the time in the Prem. But I mean, before that, he had 3 excellent seasons with Stoke. You know, top half finishes, 9th in 3 years in a row. You know, he's managed at Man City, didn't do too well at QPR, but managed at Fulham as well. So he's got Premier League experience, and I think the board finally pulled the trigger because, you know, if we kept with Pellegrino, we'd be gambling our Premier League future. And Mark Hughes is probably the only name in the hat that you could probably guarantee safety. I mean, Mark Hughes was in the hat, but he took Hull down, albeit after a lot of, you know, top efforts that season with Hull, but didn't do enough to keep him up. I mean, Mark Hughes was probably the man to spark some life back into the Saints players. I had to get that in.
Yeah, nice pun there. Any regret? I have to ask this. Any regret for not sticking with Puel last season?
Yeah, everybody says it. You know, cup final, 8th place in the Premier League. You know, I would snatch your hand off. You know, lots of other fans say, but honestly, if you sat through that football last season, mate, it was the worst I've seen ever. Under
the same people saying to us, obviously, when we got rid of Big Sam, you know, we had the same situation. When we got rid of Big Sam, everyone was like, who do they think they are, wanting Big Sam out and this, and not having to go to the games every single week. It's hard for people to understand when you go there every week and you see him sat with that. So as a West Ham fan, I can sympathise.
Yeah, I think actually the last 6 games really summarised his tenure at Southampton. You know, I think we scored 1 goal in 6 games at home. You know, 1 goal between 6 games. It was just unbelievable how much we sort of, I don't know, plummeted after the League Cup final. We had a really good run that kept us up quite high. We had a couple of good wins around that time in March and February to, you know, cement ourselves in the top half. But since then, you know, it was just absolutely dreadful. You know, conservative approach. I mean, it also carried on through the rest of this season. It was bad habits probably put through to them from Claude Puel, and then they've carried it on this season. And also, I think Southampton Football Club, you know, the board, they played it safe over the last 2 years, and they wanted somebody to tick all the right boxes, to fit the criteria of the Southampton way. You want a manager to bring through all the youngsters, you know, play attractive football. I mean, Les Reed made a huge mistake in saying that to the press when Pellegrino was announced in the summer. You know, Pellegrino agrees and will bring attacking football. As soon as he said that, that puts huge pressure on the manager already, you know. But we didn't see any improvement under Pellegrino this season. If not, it went backwards.
Yeah, and I'm speaking of the board as well. Like, our problems with the board are well documented, but from what I've seen, like from your fan cams, what I've seen online from Southampton fans, there seems to be quite a bit of unrest against your board, to some extent. I mean, what's the sort of feeling for towards the board at the moment with Southampton?
Again, very divided, but I think the board have got fans back on side with the dismissal of Pellegrino. A lot of fans saying that the board was to blame because we haven't had the ambition to go for bigger players in the transfer market. Guido Carrillo was very much a Pellegrino signing, 19.2 million, broke our transfer record, and very much a Pellegrino signing. But he's not really done too much to value that price tag. He set up a couple of assists, but not really been outstanding. And I mean, Southampton as a football club, it's a great business model that they've made over the last few years. But I think it's got to a point where we need to show more ambition, break the bank, and go for it and show our, we have got the pulling power. Premier League now is full of money. It's a multi-billion pound business, and we get so much money from TV revenue. I mean, sure, a lot of Premier clubs get that as well. I think we should use that money wisely, invest into playing staff.
And that is the thing. You guys have made so much money from transfers over the past few seasons as well. It is 75 million just recently on Van Dijk, and when you look at it, you guys had to know that you were probably going to be getting that before the transfer window, so could have planned accordingly and identified the appropriate targets and gone out and got it. So you can understand a bit of the frustration when you're selling all these top players. And I think you guys have done really well over the years of replacing them. But I think I said this to you once before, is there's only so many times you can go to that well before it starts to run dry. And, finding these gems, it's not always going to happen. So you need to splash the cash.
That's it, exactly. I mean, we've got this black box in the training ground, which, scouts all over Europe, finds the best appropriate players to fit the model of the football club, young players that we can develop into great superstars if you want. But I mean, the lifespan of these players are only going to play for 2-3 years at most under Southampton. I mean, in Dusan Tadic, we've got four good years out of him. I think he's probably gone a bit stale this season. Nathan Redmond's gone a bit stale this season too. Been massively underwhelming this season. Huge potential, Nathan Redmond. One player in particular for me, he's got bags of ability, but he hasn't been utilised properly with it. I mean, you've touched upon players, where we've sold and not really replaced in better quality. I think we should have got rid of Van Dijk in the summer. He was a bad egg. He was a bad influence on the dressing room, and that's partly down to why Pellegrino's had such a tough time this season. He's been trying to juggle that ego of Van Dijk, trying to keep him out the side. Exclude him from the training and everything else, and I think that's obviously had an influence on the team. But as you say, it's got to a point where the conveyor belt or the black box has run out of players, and the time is really just dip into the pocket and break the bank and sink their ego for once.
Yeah, it's we're in a situation ourselves where it is just like, with this money coming in, bloody well spend it. But I mean, you guys still have some really good players there. Who are some of the players we need to watch out for this Saturday?
Well, Charlie Austin will be in contention for Saturday. He's been out for 14 weeks.
I imagine he will be dying to play against his old mate David Sullivan with his lack of ligaments in his right knee that he has. I'm sure he's going to want to come and stick a goal in and really show him. What was it, 6 million you signed him for?
6 million, made an instant impact off the bench at Old Trafford. Oh, that was a brilliant day, actually. Brilliant day, came off the bench, smashes it in with a header. And actually this season, he's our top scorer still. Unbelievably that he's been out for, 2/3 of the season. But when he's on the pitch, he scores goals, Charlie Austin, he's your proverbial, fox in the box sort of striker. He can smash it in from 5 yards and sort of, 25 yards, let's say. I think he's the only natural striker that we've got. I mean, other strikers that we've got is, obviously, we've got Guido Carrillo. He's your he's sort of target man. I don't think he's quite settled properly yet. Still finding his feet. Manolo Gabbiadini's gone off the board a little bit recently. He will run around your back line, make a nuisance of himself, trying to play the offside, trying to beat the offside trap. And Shane Long, perfect to stretch the game, perfect for a wide pitch, perfect for a long pitch like the London Stadium. Yeah,
it's definitely a game that I am worried about going into it. I mean, what's the feeling with your fans that, if you don't win this game, how's sort of the mindset of the fans going to be, and where do you go from there?
I think going into the game, we're fairly positive, but it is your proverbial 6-pointer. We must win this game. Every game's a must-win game now. It's 8 cup finals to the end of the season, excluding if we progress in the semi-final at Wembley. But the cup competition has provided a bit of respite for us and actually gave us a little bit of that bounce. But this weekend, if we take 3 points away from West Ham, we put you in the muck, brings us out of the bottom 3. And it'll be huge for the confidence. 2 back-to-back wins, and it'll put us in a good place travelling to Arsenal the following weekend, and also Chelsea coming to town, and then we've got to play Leicester. So 3 tough fixtures, and I think looking at the 8 games left, I think a realistic target is probably 6 to 8 points maybe, and that I think will probably keep us up.
Yeah, I think that's roughly the target with us as well. And we've got equally tough games. Last, I want to ask, coming to the state, we've seen everything that's gone on and what happened with the Burnley game. What's the sort of mindset as a Southampton game coming to the London Stadium and possibly seeing some more of that? Is it sort of a bit of not so much worry for safety, but just like, what am I going to expect?
Well, as I say, it was beamed all across the world. It was all over the papers, everywhere you'd look. The fans in revolt at West Ham. And I think had we not, sacked Pellegrino, we'd have 2 sets of hostile fans going to London Stadium. And I said it on my reaction actually after Newcastle. Prepare to take your crash helmets and your gum shields, because if we don't get rid of this guy soon, then it's going to be nasty at West Ham.
Yeah, so I mean, let's hope that doesn't happen either way. Apart from that game, like I said, I hope you guys do well in the season, and I just really want to win this game, mate. I really want to win this game, as I'm sure you do. But we'll see, and obviously we'll meet up with you guys again on the day after the game. One of us will be smiling, one of us will be livid, or we'll both have a point and be sort of ambivalent, not knowing how to feel about that, because points not good enough, but a loss is catastrophic.
Absolutely. I think, as you said in our video, whoever loses this game has, the life is in their own hands.
Yeah, there's big games coming up. So, well, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's great to have you.
No problem, mate. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, no, fantastic. So if you're watching this, please go and check out Freddie's channel, The Ugly Inside. Some great content in there, and you get to see interview a lot of proper old school like Southampton fans, and it's good to listen about views of other people's clubs, and it's worth checking out. So subscribe to them as well. And like I said, thanks for coming on, Freddie. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments in below, and check out my video on their channel. One thing left to say: come on, you Irons.